Hi all, welcome to the channel, welcome to the workshop. We now have the next 4 stages of Build Kit from Knight Rider. Now, one of the inspirations for creating my own channel was World of Wayne, and I'm just going to give him a big shout out right now, and I'm going to link his channel. I'm sure most of you probably already subscribed to him anyway. Last night, or most of yesterday, he attempted to do a 24-hour build on a Volvo 1/8 scale car. Very highly detailed. He got to about 14 hours before having to call it a day. But I'll just say, absolute massive effort. Well done. 2 thumbs up for Wayne. I'm hoping you'll probably see this at some point. But he was one that made the little workshop symbol there. So thank you very much for that again. I was to say, I will put a link in the description for his channel. Please go across there and subscribe if you have not done so already. But as most of you know, Wayne would say, without further ado, let's get cracking. Okay, so we're going to kick this off with issue 35. Worth noting, we got our little free gift this time around. There's our little USB power bank. I have charged it, so you can see the little lights coming on there. Maybe. Yeah, seems to work well. I don't know what the milliamp hour is on that at the moment, or any other information about it, but might come in useful at some point. But this is what we really want to know about is the magazine. So we'll just have a quick look at the magazine. Again, same sort of format, tells you about the show and the music, etc. A few good still shots from the TV show. But what we're really interested in, obviously, is the build-up part. And as you can see, we are going to need the axle from the previous part. So I've got that just here. So these are the parts we get. We have a couple of springs. We have a couple of brackets. I believe they are marked left and right. Yep, so we've got this one here, left and right, you can just about see. We have a couple of suspension posts. I believe they are identical. So no markings on those. And then we have some HM, some NM, some BP and GM screws. We also have this part, which is the rear suspension crossbar. So first thing I'm going to be doing is we're taking our axle, just going to flip it over so it's this way up. That means that this, I believe, is the left hand side and this is the right hand side. So we're just going to look for the one marked left, which is this one here. And this is just going to slot into those 2 holes just there with the 2 pegs, just like that. We're going to be securing that from this side using 2 of the GM screws. And you don't need me to bang on about it, but it's going into metal, so I'll just put this into a bit of oil. Now we're going to do the same thing, but for the right side. So that is now looking just like that. Let's put that to one side for a second, because we're now going to need to bring the car over. And we're going to need these little suspension posts for the next part. What we're going to be doing, we're going to just flip it over. And I think just to protect that engine, I am going to bring my Partwork Upgrades mat up. just going to pop it there so that will just protect the engine. And hopefully not cover up all the parts that I need. So this is going to be going into the hole you just see here. Now these do have a little keyway on it, and there is a little slot for that keyway to go in. So that would just go in like that. And we're going to be doing that for both sides. So one in each side like that. And then we're going to flip it over and we're going to be securing that with the HM screws. Although interesting enough, the picture is different to what those are. So I have to show you this. The picture shows a flanged short screw, which does say HM screws. These HM screws are not short and are not flanged. So hold on a moment while I check that out. Right, I've just had a look and these HM screws do seem to fit. So I am going to go ahead and use the screws provided. Again, dipping into oil and just screwing that into there. And that does stay quite rigid, and it does actually go flush with the bodywork there, as you can see. Far too much dust in this workshop. Right, we're just going to repeat that for the other side. So again, just putting that in there, making sure the keyway is sat in properly. I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to secure it from this side. Just like that. So that's those two in there that out. Right. We're now going to need the axle, and having it this way up with the two parts we mounted earlier facing away from the chassis of the car. We're just going to pop that on there. We're going to need to make sure that our drive shaft goes into the hole, and that is going to sit just in there, down on those pegs, just like that. Not forgetting to put the springs on. I'm going to use another Wayne phrase here. I make mistakes, so you don't have to. And it says to use 2 NM screws to secure that in place. I say says because the picture is clearly unfinished. But we've got 2 screws here. I'm guessing they should have arrows pointing to those parts there. So just find the NM screws. Now, interesting enough, these ones are flanged. So possibly someone wasn't paying attention when they did the artwork for this job. Right, so again, just a little dip of oil, just putting a little bit of pressure on this suspension just to compress the spring down. Might need a PH1 bit for this one, just help that drive in a little bit better. Again, same with this one, just compressing that spring. And yeah, a PH1 driver is much better for that job. Just make sure that one's tight as well. So that's the rear axle, and you can see we've got some suspension travel there now. And then the last thing we need is our crossmember. So we're going to secure it from the axle here to the chassis here. So it's going to go just in there. So it's got like a little slot here, and it's going to go onto there. We're going to be using the GM screws for that. So I'm just going to flip that around, bring the mat over a little bit further. And I have just realised I've skipped a step for the BP screws, which I'll do in just a moment. Again, no red lines. So the BP screws will secure this bit to the drive shaft, so I'll do that as the next step. So as I just got the GM screw here, going to secure that into there like that. And then the other one just goes in here. We'll now grab our BP screws and do the step that I skipped. So these two BP screws will secure this protector bar to the transmission, oh sorry, the differential. One in there, and one just in there. Just like that. And that's all there's to do in stage 35. Okay, moving on to issue 36. These are the parts we get. We're going to be basically concentrating on the rear left brake assembly and the suspension for that, I believe. So let's get on with that lot. I'm going to keep my Partwork Upgrades mat up here because we are going to need the car. We're going to be turning that upside down, working on the bottom of it. The first thing we need to do, we need to get this little part here. You can see there's got a little keyway on it. There's a hole just down here, and you can just about see there's a keyway on that as well. So we're going to pop that in there, just like that, and then we're going to secure it from the other side with a BP screw. So just holding that in place and securing it from this side using the BP screw, ensuring that keyway stays in place, just like that. Going to put those just together like that, and then we're going to secure that together with a CP screw. And that goes in just like that. You can see that does move, there's a bit of flex to it. So not doing it up too tight. And then that will go over the top of this pin that we put in earlier, and then this piece will be going into this little slot just here. So just like that. Now again, we're going to use a BP screw, and that's going to secure it into here. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm actually just going to turn that around so that the screw head is on the inside of the car. But I believe that's going to be down to personal preference, not necessarily required. So again, just slotting that in there and using the BP screw to secure that in place, just like that. Next we're going to be working on the suspension arm mount. So we need these two bits here, and it looks like we need to assemble those two parts together just like that. And we're going to be using two GM screws, one from each side, and then it's going to slot in just like that. So first things first, I'm going to put the two GM screws in there. just put one in loosely for the minute. And gives us a better chance to line up this side. And we'll just tighten those up. There we go. Now, I haven't tightened them all the way. In fact, I will just back it off half a turn, just so there is some movement there. But as you can see, it's not too loose that it's just flopping all over the place. It is going to just move. So there's a mount just here, and then there's the two mounts just here. So that's now going to sit just in there and in there like that. And then we're going to use a GM screw either side of this, and then it'll be a GM screw secured from the other side as well. And then I'm just going to flip it over and just through this hole here, just this one here, we're going to secure that bracket in place. So that's now looking just like that. And again, as you can see, the suspension is absolutely fine to move. Not doing those up too tight. The next thing we need this base plate, this brake backing. We need this very small part here, and we're going to be securing that just on here with an AP screw from the other side. So just lining that up with the hole, and the AP screw in from the back. And I believe that is the orientation that you want it in, so that this pipe points down. And then next thing we're going to do, we're going to actually slot it onto the axle. Again, matching the keyway to the axle itself. It's a fairly tight fit. And then we're going to finish off with the brake drum, and that's going to sit just on there like that. And there is an orientation. It can go both ways, but I'm going to match the picture, which is this way up. Been a while since I dealt with drum brakes, so I'm not 100% familiar with that, but I believe that is correct. I'm going to secure that with two DP screws. Just realised that was off camera for you. So just put it on there, so it can go both ways round. So there isn't a key or anything for this, but I'm going to put it that way around, which is the way the picture shows. And you're effectively putting the L towards the L, just like that. And two DP screws will secure that in place. So that goes just like that. And that's the end of stage 36. Okay, so we now have issue 37, and I'm slightly confused because you've got all the parts here, and we seem to have an extra hubcap just stapled to the bag. No note or anything in the book to say why that is. So if you know, please put a comment in below, and maybe you can enlighten me why there's an extra cap. Unless of course we figure it out whilst doing this build. So we've got a tyre, we've got the rims parts, I believe that to be the outer cover for the drum. So we have the cover in here, we have some OM screws, we have a little rubber washer, some AM screws and some EM screws. Right, so we get rid of that. Now I will just open up this one as well. As far as I can see, they are identical. If you can see a difference, please tell me. I will use the additional one, although that one's going to be kept in spare for the minute. But I'm not doing any of the mods, so I'm just screwing this onto the outside, so that'll be absolutely no problem. The tyre, that's going to go in some hot water, because I'm not going to do this like the instructions tell you. The instructions have told you, I haven't even looked at this to be fair, to do this, put the wheels in and then screw it all together whilst the basically compressing the wheel, compressing the tyre. I tried it with the first two tyres, or the first tyre, and for me it just would not work. I just couldn't compress it enough. In the end, what I did is the same as what I've done with the other tyre, and that is I'm going to build this up first while the tyre is warming up, and then I'm just going to compress that into the tyre. So the first thing I'm going to do is get 3 EM screws and just secure that in place. And I'd say if you have any problems with your hands whatsoever and you can't really compress things together, this is definitely by far the easier way to do it. And I would say that my hands are pretty good, yeah, fairly strong, but I really struggled with it last time. So we have now a very hot tyre, and all I'm going to do is that. I'm going to make sure that bead gets pushed all the way around there, and it's as simple as that. And just dry that off a little bit, and a bit of paper towel. And that's that mounted just like that. So the next thing we're going to be doing is grabbing this detail part, which I assume is the outer part of the drum brake, and we're going to be placing that. Interesting enough, there is a keyway on this. I think they must make all the front and rear wheels exactly the same. We're just going to line up, and there's actually 5 posts in there, so we're just going to line up 3 of these just like that, and then we're going to secure that again with some more EM screws. One, two, and 3, just like that. Just going to bring up the car again. So on the side that we've been working on already, we're going to grab the wheel, and that's just going to sit on there like that. There is no keyway or anything lined up like there was with the front. We're just putting that on there like that, just ensuring that it does spin nicely. We're going to need our little washer. Now mine does have like a little burr on it. I don't know if you can just see that on the camera, so I'm just going to use a scalpel just to cut the edge of that off. Now I'm just going to pop that just in there. Make sure it lines up. And then we're going to grab one of the OM screws. And secure that in there just like that. You don't want it too tight because the wheel won't spin, but you don't want that wheel to wobble either, so you want to try and find a happy medium. And I think that's probably good just like that. Right, and finally we're going to use the little cap, and we're going to use the AM screws to secure that in place. Now obviously there are mods out there for changing these so you don't see the screws. Mike Lane, I believe Model Mods, have all got mods available. Personally, I don't mind seeing the black screws. If I really was that worried, I'd probably print some myself. But for now, I'm building this as is. I should point out that these are only held in by these 5 screws, so if you did want to change it further down the line, it's a really easy mod to do. So that's now looking just like that. So that is stage 36. Can't even remember what stage I'm up to now. 37 then. And we now have sort of a rolling chassis. Missing a wheel, but we have a rolling chassis. We're now going to move on to issue 38. And 38 I think is pretty much identical to issue 36. So we're building up the right hand side of the brake itself and the lower suspension. Bring up the Partwork Upgrades mat again. I'm going to flip that over. Okay, so just flip that around so we're seeing a little bit better the right hand side here. So as we did before with the left hand side, we're just basically going to be doing exactly the same but on this side. So we've got this part first with the little keyway on it, and that's going to go into this keyed hole just here. We're going to flip it over and we're going to secure that from the other side with a BP screw. So just holding that in place, and then putting the BP screw in just there. Like that. Next we're going to be assembling the shock again. Again, putting those two together. And we need a CP screw for this one. And we're just screwing that through there. Just like that. And then we'll be popping that. Again, I've put the screws facing inwards. We're going to pop it over that peg into that slot just in the suspension there in the axles, and again another BP screw will secure that in place. Just like that. Next we're going to be assembling the lower suspension arm. And as we did before, we're going to be placing those together and using 2 GM screws to secure that together. This really is just a copy what you did in issue 35. So building the other one up. Again, I'm just going to back that out half a turn, just so that there is a little bit of movement. And then we're going to place that just on there like that, and some more GM screws. Oops, there you go, I've made a mistake. Put this in upside down. So we put that in the correct way up now. There we are. So they have the channel facing upwards. Again, that's going to go just in there. Let's loosen that off a little bit, it's too tight. There we go. So that's going to sit in there. Again, some more GP screws, also to secure it into the rear axle. I have to say it's much more difficult with the wheel now in place. You certainly need a shorter screwdriver. Just about do that with this length screwdriver. It would have probably been easier to build that up first before putting the wheel on. And then one final GM screw for this part will be from the top again, through that hole and into the part below. So that's now looking just like that. We now need to build up this part. So as we did before, we've got this little nipple that we need to attach, just like that. And again, going to be securing that from the back with an AP screw. Again, pointing downwards. And then we're just going to place that on the axle. Again, another tight fit, just making sure that keyway goes in and finds its home. And then we're just going to put that on there, just like that. And I'm going to use the two DP screws to finish that one off. And that is that for that stage, and also for that build pack. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed that video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of how KITT progresses, please remember to hit that subscribe button. If you also hit the notification bell, you'll see when I release new videos. I want to give just a final shout out to the World of Wayne, 1 for the inspiration for this channel, and 2 for that absolutely epic build, which will be linked in the description below. Please go along and see it if you haven't already, and I'll see you around.